Let's see. Well, hey, good morning. Welcome to another day. What are you doing in my fridge? Looking for food? Well, I guess that makes sense. I mean, the fridge is a good spot to look for food. I mean, when I'm hungry, I probably come to the fridge, or if there's nothing in the fridge, go to the grocery store and I'm going to find food. But can you imagine if all of a sudden you had to feed 5,000 plus people and there were no refrigerators and there were no grocery stores? How would you feel in that moment? Well, let's talk about it today on Revival from the Bible. So today we read about Jesus feeding the 5,000 in Mark chapter 6, verses 30 through 44. Now I do want you just to think about that for a moment. I mean, it even says that the men were 5,000, so maybe even more than that. I don't know, maybe you've done some catering for groups. I know my wife has done a lot of cooking for larger groups in the church, but I mean, thousands, that's massive, right? And it coming from a culture with no commercial kitchens, no, Costco's to go shop at, right? What an ordeal. You can sense the stress the disciples must have felt. And then it's like, hey, we got a guy with 5 loaves and 2 fish, right? And Jesus takes that and miraculously multiplies that. So I want us to think, well, what does that mean? Because that is one of the most familiar miracles of Jesus. It's the only miracle mentioned in all 4 of the Gospels. But what does it mean? And I think, obviously we're going to talk more when we get to John chapter 6 about Jesus being the bread of life. But I think there is a simple message for all of us to understand the power of Jesus to provide. That Jesus provides in that moment what is needed, and He can provide for us too. One of the things that sticks out to me in this story is how it begins. The apostles have returned from being sent out to do ministry. And let me just tell you how the apostles probably felt. Dog tired, right? I'm thinking about what it feels like for me after Easter or after getting done with a retreat or something, and it's like, man, I'm tired. I want to take a day off or something like that. And that's what Jesus tells them. He says, hey, come away and let's go get refreshed. Let's go away to a desolate place and rest a while. And it's in that when these people come, right? They're trying to get out of town and the crowd finds them. But we see Jesus, He has compassion on the crowds. And so He teaches them and it gets late. And then He says, hey, let's feed them, right? And this is the disciples are like, okay, let's go on vacation. Okay, Jesus, you can teach them. Okay, now we have to feed all of these people? Yikes. They were in need of rest. Now they were in help, needing to provide all these people for food. But then Jesus, He provides. And He miraculously multiplies the fish and the loaves. And for the 12 disciples, how many baskets do they take up leftovers? That's right, 12. It's almost like Jesus is saying, hey guys, I got you. Not only am I going to provide food for this massive crowd, I'm going to give you a sack lunch for tomorrow too, right? With these 12 baskets of leftovers. And so today the question I want to ask you is, what is it that you feel in need of today, right? For most of you watching this video, I doubt that it's, man, I don't have food for today. If that really is your need, give me a call. I'll take you out to lunch, right? We can handle most of those basic needs today. But maybe there is a financial need that you're concerned about. Maybe you're just feeling like the disciples and you're dog tired and you feel like you need some rest, right? Or maybe there's a situation where you just need help or you need wisdom or whatever it may be. What do you need today? And I want you to take your eyes and turn them to Jesus and remember the Jesus you serve is a great provider. and He can give you what you need, right? And even I connect this with, what Jesus is saying, where He's saying, hey, you guys need to get out of town and get some rest. But then actually we don't, because we need to serve these people. It reminds me of what Jesus says when He was tempted to turn rocks into bread. He said, no, man shall not live by bread alone. And sometimes when there's a lack in our lives, what God is trying to teach us ultimately is, hey, my grace is sufficient for you. So take your needs today, and I want you to lift them up to God. Spend some time praying through those needs and trusting that God is able to meet those needs, and that God, through His grace, will be sufficient for you. So read this parable and be encouraged that Jesus is a great provider. He can multiply the loaves and the fish, and we could sit around and tell stories of ways God has provided in great ways for us. So remember that from Mark 6. The other passage I want to comment on today is from 1 Corinthians. I'm excited to be going through these couple books today. Yesterday we read about the factions and the divisions in the church. But today he reminds them really of the gospel, the word, which he calls the word of the cross. And he gets to the end in verse 26, 1 Corinthians 1:26, and he says, "For consider your calling, brothers. Not many of you were wise according to worldly standards. Not many were powerful. Not many were of noble birth. But God chose what is foolish in the world to shame the wise. God chose what is weak in the world to shame the strong. God chose what is low and despised in the world, even things that are not, to bring to nothing things that are, so that no human being might boast in the presence of God. And because of Him you are in Christ Jesus, who became to us wisdom from God, righteousness and sanctification and redemption, so that, as it is written, let the one who boasts boast in the Lord." So, bringing it full circle from yesterday, these divisions, he's reminding them, guys, we shouldn't be all about these divisions, because everything you have was given to you because of Christ. You can't say, well, God chose me because I'm smart, or because I'm strong, or because I'm godly. No, probably God chose you because you weren't those things, so that He might show how great He is. So, first thing from Mark, I want you to spend some time praying for your needs and trusting God to provide. The other thing is, I want you to spend some time in prayer today just thanking God for saving you and letting that bring you humility today, that you have nothing to boast about. Let the one who boasts boast in the Lord. So I hope those passages encourage you. Also, we're reading again from Psalm 56 today and wrapping up the book of Ruth. And I'm excited tomorrow to talk about the beginning of 1 Samuel. So we'll see you then on Revival from the Bible.